Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Champions Podcast, your Sunday night conversation. This is your boy T Drake and my co-host Korey Harris out of the ATL. Cole, what's going on, my brother?
What's going on, T? Glad to be here. Hey, for everybody out there watching this is a pre-recorded video. We are actually doing this on Sunday morning. So shout out to everybody out there who's still making the decision to rock with us Sunday night. Don't forget, if you have any questions based off of the content that we're talking about, anything that you might want to know, you can still post them in the chat just like you would during our live recording. And we're actually going to start the next episode making sure we answer questions that were posted. So make sure you guys stay active in that chat.
There you go. There you go. So, Cole, what's going on, my brother?
Man, doing great. Yesterday was a day where I kind of started off a little busy. Felt more like a weekday because I had some clients in the AM. But then after that, man, just spent some time, getting ready for this, thinking about, our topic, and of course, spending time with the family. So what about you, my brother?
Man, I'm on the road right now, bro.
Okay.
So you know how it goes. So this is why we're doing the pre-recording because we talked about we had something in place so that we don't miss a beat. So this where it is, man. On this road, man, in this hotel, man, getting ready for another day in the gym.
Where you at right now?
Man, I'm in Orlando, Tavares, Florida, the big house, man. I feel like I'm living in Orlando now. I'm down here so much, man. Yeah, they got me down here all the time. I got a couple more trips coming down here in the next couple of weeks, man. So, Florida's been good to me. Shout out to the state of Florida. Marcus McGee. I'm here for Marcus McGee this weekend. So it's going good, man. Going well. But hey, look, man, let me ask you a question, man. Did you play some football yesterday while you was working and chilling with the fam?
Yeah, man, I caught just a little bit of that Colorado game, with Dion and those guys. I will say they're one O-line away. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a huge gap, right? It's not a light thing, but I think they got some areas they touch it up, reinforce that O-line. They can, hang with the big dogs a little bit better. But Nebraska's a good team. No shade to, Colorado for getting beat by Nebraska. No shade to Nebraska. Very, very good team. But Oh, and my man, number 12, I can't believe I forgot his name for Colorado, kid that plays both ways. Like, I just think it's amazing what he's doing. I don't know if he can do that on the next level. But to see the stats, like, he played almost every down the game before, against North Dakota. And, you don't really see that often anymore.
Yeah, you don't see that except in Pee Wee football.
Right. Right. So very talented young man.
So let me ask you this, because we talked about this before, man, in regards to Derrick Rose and how they say that all the playing that he did growing up contributed somewhat to his injuries later on in his NBA career. So is that something that our guy at Colorado, I got to look up his name, but is that something that you think will affect him once he gets to the NFL, regardless of how much he takes care of his body?
Yeah, I think the body, it has a limit, and there's a certain mileage that we all get to. Every number is different for every guy, as far as what you can take and how far you can go. But I do think, as far as the people that are in his circle, the coaching staff, that's responsible for him right now. And then, of course, he himself, everyone needs to think long term, like, yeah, it's great that he's doing these things on the college level where he's at. And it, of course, puts the team in position to potentially, be more successful. But what about his long-term success? So, I do think that he's going to be that type of player in the NFL where he could play special teams, obviously offense. And then here and there, you might put him in a special situation. But I don't, and this is just me, I don't know if you can do that at the highest level, getting hitting other people, it's just a lot of wear and tear. So I hope he, continues to ball, but I definitely want to see every young man that has a chance to, play on a high level, protect themselves. You know what I mean? So
his name's Travis Hunter. I just kind of looked it up.
There we go.
Yeah, Travis Hunter.
Shout out to him.
Shout out to him, man. He's doing a wonderful thing. Everybody's talking about how wonderful it is. But like I said, I sat back and I heard while watching them or watching to game day, I was started thinking, I was like, man, this is kind of similar to, not similar, but kind of like Derrick Rose. So much usage earlier, and then kind of just went downhill, at some
Yeah.
point in his NBA career. But once again, Cole, neither one of us played collegiate ball or played in the
Mm-mm.
NFL. But bruh, going up against those are grown men you going up against at the NFL level.
Yeah. And it's just the amount of, I mean, you just break it down to the smallest level, the amount of steps,
Mhm.
the amount of explosive movements, the amount of collisions, like it all adds up, and then eh, the mind is infinite, first of all. So I'm not going to say that you can only do so much, with the human brain. We haven't learned how to utilize our brains, right? Not to the fullest capacity. But at a certain point, like his emotional stability comes into question as well because he's having to remember assignments and plays and scouting reports and where he's supposed to be all the time. And
Yeah,
so it's not just the regular stress of trying to win a game or trying to make the right play. It's now the stress of, football, you almost are on two different teams. Like
yeah,
when you play offense, you're so separated from the defense and vice versa. Well, now you have two sets of like pressures and responsibilities to two different groups and two different coaching staffs. Like your OC and your DC barely even talk, in football like that. So, I think here's what I will say in a positive light. I think the branding that he is creating for himself, like just his own aura and the dynamic look that he's giving himself
hmm,
going into the NFL draft, I don't know if he signed with like a shoe company yet or anything like that, but I can only imagine the type of commercials and uh, just ads they're going to run for him,
yeah,
once he becomes, a professional athlete. So
yeah.
it's it's cool, but it's a little dangerous, at the same time.
Yeah. So man, yesterday, saying you can look at it like it was a but I'm gonna get to something else back to that Colorado
Okay.
game. But yesterday, you had quite a few upsets. If you want to look at them as upsets,
Hmm.
Northern Illinois took down Notre
Okay.
Dame. Uh,
Okay.
you know,
Wow.
California beat Auburn. If you want to call that a upset, most people would look at it,
Yeah.
being an SEC school. You know,
Right. Right. Right.
and then there was another one, and I have right here looking at it down my list, but it was another upset yesterday too as well. Alabama didn't pull away from South Florida till late in that game, but
Mm.
another game that was a very interesting game. Texas, kind of put it on Michigan, and it really showed that Texas is a
Okay.
real deal, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
just that time of the season.
I will say this: Florida beat Sanford.
We gonna take what we can get, man. We gonna take what we can get.
Sanford
Come
Bulldogs.
on, man. We got the toughest. You said it yourself. We got the toughest schedule in the entire country.
I
So
said
this
it.
is our week to recollect ourselves, man. This is it. This is a recalibration week. You gonna put that in there like that, man? Come on. Ah,
Going
man.
back to Colorado for 1 second before we get into our
Okay.
topics for today. And then let me just say this, man. My Steelers plays my Falcons today, bruh. I'm saying, and I had tickets to the game, and I'm
Oh
stuck here,
wow.
and I'm here in Orlando. You know what
Oh
I'm saying?
wow.
It's all good, man. But that O line, that's not something he can change anytime soon. So, what do you
I
see
think
him having to do?
I think the see getting skill positions in football is the shiny, object. It's the thing that wows everybody when they start listing,
Yeah.
you know, your off-season recruitment and ranking how well you did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, football people know though that it starts with your O line and your D line, and I think those big fellas up front, those horses, they're always going to go to schools where there's kind of a legacy, there's kind of an established culture. They know they're going to play in like a pro style offense. Not saying that Colorado does or doesn't. Like, again, I don't watch the game enough to know exactly what they're running, but
Yeah.
I do know that Alabama's going to have a tough O line every year. You know, like there are just certain schools where you're going to see a bunch of like lottery picks up front protecting that quarterback. So you got to go to, well, and this is even for a basketball perspective. If you're a coach in college, or you coach at a prep school and you have a recruiting budget, or you have a staff that goes out and finds talent, you do have to ask yourself eventually, like, are we looking in the wrong places? How are we even like portraying who we are, so that when kids look at us or families look at us, they feel like we're the place to send, their son to. They can trust us with their son. And let's think about it like this. Let's get even deeper, T. Like HBCUs, which is where Coach Prime coached at before,
Yeah.
right? Black colleges, for the most part, you don't see large O lines. Let's just be honest, because the skill positions in football, just like basketball, normally are your African American and minority men, right?
Yeah.
Quarterbacks nowadays, a lot of them are dual threats. Your running backs traditionally have been black kids, wide receivers, defensive backs, safeties, linebackers. Like those positions typically are your black kids. But if we're just being honest, a lot of the O line is a little bit mixed. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna have some minorities in there, but you're also gonna have some kids that are Caucasian, kids that are white. So are you in the right mindset as a coach and as a coaching staff where you understand what those families are looking for?
Mm.
Like, can you communicate to them? How are you handling yourself or presenting yourself on those recruiting visits? A lot of those people probably are sending their kids to more traditional options, traditional schools that have been established much longer than in Colorado, right? And maybe they're not as there's not as much bravado, but there's still success. I
Yeah.
think Prime just has to get that first level of success. Like
Yeah.
if he can win a conference championship, if he can, get back into, playoff contention at some point, then those parents and those families will probably want their sons there because they know of the potential to play on that level. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's about winning. So, I think they did better this year. I think they do have a better O line than they did last year. Of course, like Shadur, I think was the most uh, hurried quarterback in college
Yeah.
football, and he was also like hit the most or something like that.
Mhm.
So, I don't see that happening right now. He seems to be a little bit more protected,
Yeah.
but they're still not where they need to be,
Yeah.
to contend.
So I guess we can say that they're gonna have still got a little long road ahead of them.
I mean, if they didn't, if Prime went from Jacksonville State to straight to the big leagues and just like killed,
Yeah.
I mean, what example can we name outside of, I don't even know anyone who has like just done, like, you always have to walk across the desert sand. You gotta, gotta
Even Nick
walk across
Saban,
the
even Nick
rough.
Saban had to go through that when he first got to Alabama.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it's the way it goes. And
Yeah.
he knows that. I
Yeah.
was listening to his press conference right before we got on this, and he was just talking about how excited he is to bounce back. How excited he is for the opportunity to like go through this level of adversity to
Yeah.
teach his young men something, about resilience. So like he gets it.
Yeah.
He's the best example of someone who's lived through it because he played. So
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that because it leads us into our topics for today. Here on the Champions Podcast, and just a reminder, this is pre-recorded. We're here Sunday morning, getting ready for our day. You got a long day in the gym, a long day of travel. Like I said, we said before that we weren't going to leave you empty. Sunday night conversation still going on, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. So we got to figure out what we're going to be doing. But moving into that, we've talked a little bit about pressure and how to handle that type of pressure in adversity in a recent podcast. But before we get into this today, it's kind of like a lot of people are looking at Prime situation up in Colorado and forgetting the fact that or overlooking the fact that this is some good teaching moments as a program,
mhm.
and you just don't go from you know success at Jackson State down in down where he was at in Mississippi to now, Colorado, and everything is just smooth transition, like you said, no adversity, anything like that. But
Right.
even in our own personal lives, we change jobs, we change, if someone's changed schools or whatever situation may be, go from relationship to relationship. Sometimes
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
some things that we have to go through in order to get build a foundation in that place and to build a foundation for success. What's your thoughts on that?
100%. 100%. I was actually listening to an interview yesterday. I can't remember the young lady's name, so apologies, but she was sharing about how your rejection at times is God's protection.
Mm.
And that really stuck out to me, like how at times when you feel like you've been cheated out of an opportunity or you fell short or someone uh, just mishandled, right, the moment, maybe someone did you wrong in a business deal, or like you said, you've had to transfer and move your children to another school because of bad coaching, or an injury closed the door to recruitment, and so now you have to pivot and you're going JUCO instead of to a scholarship level school out of high school. Like, when we get rejected, we sometimes internalize that rejection, and so we strike out on this journey of trying to like prove everyone who doubted us wrong, rather than understanding that we might have been not necessarily like God is trying to do something to you. Like he wanted you injured, or he wanted you to be mistreated, or he wanted you to go through this adversity and be hurt. But he will use certain things that happen. It's not that he's doing it to you, but he will still use it in order to develop you. There's a scripture that says all things work together for the good of those that love him. And I think when you have that mindset, like we were talking about with Coach Prime, you almost are always in a position to win, to succeed, because your perspective never is rattled. Although you feel the emotions of I want things to eventually turn around, or man, this is a tough time and it's uncomfortable for me. You're still in a stance of expectation, and I think when we talk to athletes and parents today, that's something that is somewhat lost in this, I don't want to always just say generation, but just in this basketball culture. It's very microwave, it's very, I want things right now. And it's also a culture of avoidance. Like, we're avoiding anything that presents at a level of adversity. Like, what, I have to compete for my spot on this
Yeah,
team. Like, you're not just going to give me my playing time. We're going to go over here. You
yeah,
know, what, I'm not going to get, 20 shots.
mhm,
I'm going to go over here. Like, oh, the trainer, he's telling me I have to do it again and do it again and do it again. Like, you're not just going to, move on, or,
mhm,
like, a lot of times, regardless of your level, you're still in a state of learning that. It
yeah,
doesn't matter how good you are, like if you've been a parent for 20 years, or you've been married 20 years, like you're always going to go through another season, because it's a season, just
yeah,
like they rotate summer, spring, all of them. You're always going to get back to another season of where you're going to have to hit some type of adversity,
yeah,
and your perspective has to remain pure.
yeah. And I think that a lot of parents, coaches sometimes try to um, alleviate the adversity in some of their
Hmm.
players and sons and daughters' lives, but it's
Yeah.
something that we can't avoid, but it's something that we can definitely help them along the way and guiding them um, to be able to learn how to deal with it and how to overcome it as well. So it's just a sports. Excuse me, sports offers that opportunity to be able to teach that life lesson, and that's one of the great things about sports. But jumping into what we got today, we're dealing with, for those of you who all been rocking with us, we always deal with three different pillars. Those pillars are frustration, desires, and fears. So tonight's or today's frustration that we're first dealing with is going to be handling pressure from other parents or coaches, handling pressure from other parents and coaches. And we understand that there's a lot of different type of pressures that come from parents, and a lot of different other type of pressures that come from coaches, but the pressure is the same. One aspect of pressure could be a coach that's telling a parent, hey, look, your kid needs to come play with me, because if they don't come play with me, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying, they'll never get where they desire to be. Or a parent saying, why are you keeping your child over there in that program? That child that's not helping your child. Come over here with us. So it's just a lot of different pressures, and it
Right.
can become frustrating because sometimes it can be people that you feel like you could trust in the industry
Hmm.
that's presenting the pressure, or sometimes it's people that you think that has a type of an internal lock into the pathway in which you need to be taking for to get your son or daughter to where they desire to be. But what's your thoughts
Hmm.
on the pressure that comes from coaches and parents on other parents in
Yeah.
this whole journey that we're about far as on the basketball journey?
Yeah, T, I think it's always going to boil down to making sure that you understand your child's identity. First of all, like what kind of person do you see your young man or young woman becoming, right? Like, is your child extremely just not, or I don't want to say naturally confident, but have you instilled a level of confidence in them where they can kind of like speak for themselves in different situations and stand on, their own too. I think all kids need validation. I think they all need acceptance. I think all kids need love. But you can kind of look at some young men and some young women early on and tell that they can almost survive in certain environments, whereas others, it might be too soon to throw them into the jungle, so to speak, right? And if you know your kid's identity, then the next step is to understand like what it is you're trying to now create. Like, what's the plan? I'll say number two is like, what's our plan based on who they are? You look at, I think the movie was called King James or King something, but it was the story of Venus and Serena, and their dad. And awesome movie. If anybody hasn't watched that, amazing story. Just not just only focusing on Venus and Serena, but also seeing just how their father had this grand plan and understood, even though he didn't play tennis professionally, he understood what it was going to take from him, his wife, his entire family to put everyone in a position where they could change the trajectory of their lives coming from Compton, gangland basically. And he understood the differences in each one of his daughters because Venus and Serena weren't his only children. I think he had four or five girls. So like, some were more academically inclined. Obviously Venus and Serena were young prodigies where tennis was concerned, but even they had different needs, and so at first people didn't even know Serena. Venus was the star, and when he even allowed them to be trained for the first time, and they not just trained with him, he requested different stimuli, because Venus needs this and Venus thinks this way and Venus understands, blah blah blah. But Serena's going to be more outgoing and she's the star. She has the it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Parents don't see the differences in their kid. Well, I don't want to say that they see it, but sometimes they don't want to admit it, and they don't want to hear someone else talking about how great their kid is doing
Mm-hmm.
or see how, fantastic it seems over there with, this family, but then just acknowledge like my son or daughter is on a different path. And as long as you're okay with it, then guess what? Your kid is going to be okay with it because they feed off of you. And so I think if you just start with those two things, when it comes to pressure, you'll at least have a sense of like you can say no. It's easier to say no when you have a plan. It's
Mm-hmm.
easier to say yes to something when you know that it's actually good for you versus this is the first time it's been presented to you. You've never given any thought to the matter. You don't know your child and like how they're going to respond to, being coached really hard. Like if you know your child cry when you get on them at home, what do you think little Johnny or little Becky Sue is going to do when we cuss him out on the sideline in front of, a couple hundred people in the gym? Or what do you think they're going to do when now they have to practice twice a day, or 6 a.m. or like, what you're getting your child into, but it's what you think you want instead of what works for you and your family system as well as your child's personality. So I think if parents just start with getting to know their kids and being honest about them and then making a plan, sitting down and saying like, this is what we're looking to get out of this. My son might not be a college basketball player. He might not. Like
Oh,
high school might be it.
I think we need to hit that topic of what does a roadmap look like?
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
don't think that a lot of parents know how to put a basketball roadmap in place. So I feel as though, maybe we need
I
to
agree.
write it down, say maybe we need to write that down so that we can jump on one of the podcasts and present, okay, this is step by step how to create a
Hmm.
roadmap for your son or your daughter. And just as the Bible says that he starts with the end. He makes known the end. He makes known the end in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So we need to be able to say, okay, these are different steps for how to if you want to get to college, you want to get to professional, and then let's work our way. We know where we're going. Now let's set the plan. Now there has to be some key metrics to understand: are we on the right path? Because if we hit a
Right.
metric, and we know that our son or daughter cannot, go through that or accomplish that, or they're not built for that, then we may be on the wrong path.
Hmm.
So, because the
I
thing about
agree.
there is going to be pressure. We're talking about in our topic today. We're talking about handling pressure from parents and coaches. What we did put in
Yeah.
this is handling pressure from yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Because there are some parents, coaches that put internal pressure on themselves, and the pressure doesn't come from an external source, but it comes from internal. But like you said, it's you're gonna have pressure regardless. You're gonna have pressure
Hmm.
regardless. It's how you respond with your plan that you already have in place, and the plan makes it so much easier to respond when pressures come, because when the pressure comes, you can go back to your blueprint, your roadmap. Nah, that's not for me. That's not for my son,
Yeah.
not for my daughter. So
Yeah.
nah, we're good on this end. We're good. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
We know that, yeah, that sounds like a good opportunity. Man, it sounds good. And and that person can come back 40 times and 50 times and come back and with the same offer. But
Right.
it's not in alignment with what we already
There you
have.
go. Great
Not
word. Great
saying
word.
is you got to write the vision so that those who read it can run with it. And one of the person that reads it is you and your family, and so that you
Right.
can run with it. So I think that when it comes to handling pressure from external pressures, you always have to have an internal roadmap that's leading you and guiding you, and you have to make sure that you are having those stoppages. Saying like the place in the mall where it says you're here and you're trying to get
Yep.
here. You always say where
Yep.
you're here. We always got to have those roadmaps that say, okay, this is where you're at. This is where you're going. Now, stay on this path because it's going to get you to where you're going. It may not look like everybody else's path. It may not look like what everybody else is doing, but just
Hmm.
stay true to what you have already laid out for your family, for your son and your daughter. And I think it kind of
100%.
helps. I think that kind of helps parents and coaches deal with the pressures from others.
100%. I had a couple parents, at least, no, it was at least three families this summer. All of them before the summer started. So I was doing like an academy, where I train kids 2 hours a day, like small group sessions, but they would come in right after the season ended last year. And, we work in the evenings. So, AAU in Georgia and probably everywhere else around the country where there's, metro areas is getting started now in January, right? So season's still going, you're having AAU tryouts. And
Mhm.
then your season ends and you're basically into, practices and things like that. So some of the parents that I was working with, their sons were ninth graders. They were rising ninth graders at the time. Some of them were ninth going to 10th. So I sat them down and I talked with each of them about like, this is what your son needs.
Mm-hmm.
This is what your son needs. But these three families that I'm getting ready to talk about, specifically, they all needed the same thing. Their sons physically were not where they needed to be to compete on a like high school level. Not yet. Like, okay, you're 6'3" or 6'2", whatever, going into ninth. That's great, but like you're too scrawny.
Yeah.
Or hey, when I watch you run, you don't stop very well. Like once you get to a high speed, you can't slow down. You get bumped, you have no balance. I
Mm-hmm.
said, hey, this summer, you need to just get with a strength coach. This summer, focus on skill development.
Yeah.
This summer, sleep in as much as you can. If it's
Yeah.
not a day where you're getting up to work out with me or somebody else, like just sleep, like
Yeah.
just rest because coach, my knees hurt, my knees like and I'm like, man, you're growing. That growth plate in your knee is shifting, and your ligaments and tendons, everything is sore. You're not even doing anything to make it happen. It's not your fault. I'm
Yeah.
encouraging them through it. Like these are some stretching routines. This is what you need to do. And two out of the three families went against everything that we talked about, everything we agreed on. They said, yes, Korey, makes sense. Thank you. They walked away from that. They felt the pressure like we're talking about now, coaches and other parents. Went and played with, a local AAU team.
Mm-hmm.
AAU team, was on the circuit and we're going to travel and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They all came back midway through the summer. You could say, June for some, July for most, and then August for sure. I had spoken with all the family,
Mm-hmm.
and they all said, like, Korey, we wasted thousands. Like, we traveled, and it was basically just sleepovers, and pool parties. You know what I mean? Like, we were just paying for our kids to go stay in a hotel, basically swim in the pool, and then like, you know, either they played a little bit or they played a lot, but they lost. They got beat up on, everywhere they went. The games weren't even competitive, or the kid didn't play much because we already knew like they weren't physically ready for the gauntlet of AAU. And then some of the kids were getting like traded literally like from, okay, you're on the gold team this week to now you're on the black team. And then, oh, this team needs another player because, their kid didn't show up. And it's like now you're not even in a rhythm. Like
Yeah.
you're not getting no experience, you're not getting no confidence, you're not getting anything out of it, really.
Yeah.
And I think that is the tale of the tape for a lot of parents who's probably watching this. Like, you probably feel like summer done came and gone. Dang, it's September already. And you're looking back and you're like, what did we get out of that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So hopefully this helps you guys, what we're talking about right now, and you can do a little bit better maybe next summer,
Yeah.
So
That is so. That is funny, man. You touched on some funny things, man, because there I can't tell you how many parents go into AAU season already knowing that it's about to be a rough season, but they still go ahead and do it. You know what I'm
still
saying?
do it.
Still just go ahead and do it. And then at the end of it, be like, I should have listened to my first mind, shouldn't have did this. Now I spent all this money. My son, my daughter's not any better. It's just, the pressures get to them, but they don't have a
Yeah,
roadmap. And I think that we need to really sit down and have one of these episodes is really helping parents develop a roadmap for their sons and their daughters.
let's do it. Let's do it.
Going to the desires for parents is building character and resilience through challenges. And we've kind of just through our talking kind of hit on that.
Yeah,
Building character and resilience through challenges. One thing is to build something means that there's going to take some work at it. And one
yep,
of the things that I want to say when we're talking about, and I want to kick off with this, is this desire for character building and resiliences is um, don't try to avoid the fire.
yeah,
Don't try to avoid the adversity. We're in the I'm taking my talent somewhere else era. You know what I'm saying? Every time something gets hot, but please understand, wherever you go, there's going to present their own set of challenges and adversity wherever you
right,
end up. So once
yep,
again, you got to figure out, is where you're at currently, the right place according to your roadmap, or is truly going over to this other place going to help you get on the roadmap that you have put in place. But wherever you go, there's going to be adversity, there's going to be challenges, and how you help your son or daughter through these is what's going to help build their character and resilience through it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think parents who are watching this just have to understand that, you know, you are shaping the adult that your child is going to grow into, you know, and when you allow them to go through tough times, you're preparing them for later on in life. And it's almost like, when do you want them to learn the lesson? Do you want it to be when everything is on the line and, you know, now they're a man with a family, or a woman with, you know, a husband and a household to take care of, and this is the first time that they're having to like stick through it? Or do you want them to just go ahead and like learn these lessons now, when like, man, these little bitty league trophies and, you know, what, even if it's high school, like, this stuff doesn't matter in the I'm talking big picture right now.
Yeah,
Like, I'm starting wide and then I'm going to come back in and zoom in on basketball. But like,
yeah,
parents, you really got to think about like, what type of person do I want my young man or young woman to grow into? I was talking with a overseas veteran, Trey Golden. He's played now, I think, a decade. And crazy thing about him is, a lot of people may not know his name who are watching his podcast, but in 2004, no, excuse me, 2007, so my senior year of high school, Trey Golden was the number one freshman in the country at point guard. When he graduated, and I think 2008, no, excuse me, man, my numbers is off. So he's 3 years younger than me. So he graduated 2010. 2010, he was still the number one point guard in the country, right? I'm talking Mr. Georgia basketball, you know, given every award you can think of. He's played against Kyrie. He's one of those guys. Your favorite player knows him, even though you might not know him. But he never touched foot in the NBA.
wow,
And Friday morning, he and I were, because I've been working with him for the last 3 years. We were sitting down talking, as we always do, about the old days. But then we got to really rapping about some serious issues, and that was the ability to remain resilient through adversity. And he was telling me, Korey, you know, at one point in time in my career, I was so bitter and so upset about the opportunities that I felt that I missed because I didn't sign with the right agent. You know, I stayed loyal to, you know, someone who was a friend of the family, you know, when I got out of college. And, you know, I didn't know how to deal with adversity when I went from high school to playing, because he went to Tennessee originally. He played for Bruce Pearl.
okay,
And he said, you know, he had games where against Memphis, you know, he went 3 of 15, or, you know, whatever. And he got chewed up by the media, like destroyed. Like, they questioned whether or not he was really lottery. And he saw his name shifting on the draft boards, you know, whether he would have went, you know, top 10 or top 14. Like, it all was hanging in the balance at one point. And he said he was thankful to the things that his father allowed him to go through when he was a young man, by not always having him playing on the Atlanta Celtics, or not always, you know, being with these shoe company teams. Did he play for those teams? Yeah, but he started off with like the Georgia Blue, like a local team, where he had to go and play against those upper echelon teams, and on his own too, like stand toe to toe with, you
yeah,
know, other guys who were ranked above him, to the point where he said, Korey, they came to us and they like, hey, come play for me. We put that much pressure on them where we had the leverage. But it taught me that, yeah, I can go somewhere and have the odds stacked against me and even fail at times. But then he had to learn it again as a professional, going overseas, not making a lot of money at first, not playing in the best leagues, not getting preferential treatment, while seeing his former teammates, as well as guys that were just in his graduating class, go on and play in the NBA. But now, full circle, he's one of the only people from that class that's still playing. He's still making the type of money where he can take care of his family and live a lifestyle that's very, you know, it's nice, it's plush,
yeah,
right? And he's playing his game. He's not sitting 12th, 13th man on the bench, you know, or getting the veteran minimum and not able to live his life the way that he wants to as a player.
yeah,
I said all that to say, if he's at he's almost at the top. Like, you could say, out of the entire basketball community, he's in the top 1,000 players in the world. You got the 450 in the league,
yeah,
and then you probably got another 450 to 500 that are just just as good, but their situations didn't allow them to get that chance. He's in that. And
Yeah.
he's saying that he is thankful that it didn't work out
Wow.
immediately. And he even said to me, if I would have made it, I probably would be the biggest a-hole in the world because I had such a demeanor where I just expected things to work. I expected everything to always fall in line. I expected to be the best. I was raised to think I'm the best, but I needed to go through what I went through so that I could be more grateful now.
Yeah.
And he's still tough to work with. You know what I mean? Like when
Yeah.
we in the gym, you got to come with your A game with Trey because he gonna question. You know, I've seen coaches that are working with me with him, and they're
Yeah.
nervous. You know what I mean? And they're like, "How are you able to?" You just got to be on your stuff. So he's
Yeah.
still, a killer.
Yeah.
But at any time, if you ask him a question, I just think his rejection has been his protection.
Yeah.
So, sorry for going
Oh,
off on
no,
that
no, no, no,
tangent,
no. Because
but yeah.
it all ties into it. Because several points I want to just drop is, you know, we have the saying, "Don't let your gifts take you where your character can't keep you," and unfortunately, a lot of young players even today are in places because of their gifts, but their character doesn't match. And they become and feel like they're entitled. So even when they see their name start to fluctuate in the ESPN rankings. It begins to mess with their psyche when they begin to see others around them, getting offers and their offers are not increasing or their offers,
Yeah.
are being, not where they thought they should be. It begins to mess with their psyche, which is why we have so much. Once again, we talked about this before. So much mental health issues going on with,
Hmm.
with a lot of our, young athletes, both, and so it's just it's something that we have to discuss and talk about. And like you said, the guy you was talking about, you were just talking about, he is a prime example of a parent who kind of helped guide him through adversity and not always putting him in a situation that was going to be easy for him. And
Hmm.
even though I'm pretty sure there were times when his son cried. What I'm saying? Maybe, what I'm saying, his wife was like, nah, you're not going to do this to my little baby. What I'm saying? Because we all have those
Yeah.
those issues arise. Dad, hey, this is gonna be
Facts.
best for him. Mom, he goes running to mom,
Facts.
crying.
Facts.
Mom
Facts.
goes to save him. He wants to go back to an old team, or he wants to do something
Hmm.
different. And dad said, no, we're gonna do this. So it oftentimes you have to, as a parent, stand on your two once again. But this is the thing.
Hmm.
You got to make sure it's in a line with the roadmap that you have for your son or your daughter. And
Right.
if it
Right.
is, then you have to stand firm, knowing that this is the path that it must take. This is what it must take to go and get there. There's a passage in scripture that says this had to happen for the furtherance of the gospel. Now, what I mean by that is there are some things you just got to go through to be able to
Right.
get to where you want to get to.
Right.
Sunday morning, we know that Jesus, he had to get to and through the cross to get to the other side where it says that every knee shall
Right.
bow and every
Right.
tongue confess.
Right.
But he had to get through that cross. A lot of us have our own crosses that we have to get to and get through so that we can get to the other side where we desire to be. So,
That's right.
the cross builds character. What I'm
That's
saying? The
right.
cross builds character. And some of us want to, what I'm saying, get our kids off that cross as soon as we possibly can before the lesson is learned. But I will say this, that if you don't learn the lesson now, it's going to come back around. It's
For
going to keep
sure.
coming until you learn the lesson because it's
100%.
about it's about you getting that character development and building that character within you. So that's a desire that many parents have, and if it's desire, you got to know what comes along with that desire is a cross or adversity.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So,
Pass
so
the test.
yeah, got to pass that test. You know what I'm saying? So when we look at fears, we're talking about when parents, their child face rejection or criticism from coaches.
Mm.
Man, you know what I'm saying? Like, so when they fears of facing, let me make sure I get it right, facing rejection or criticism from coaches. You mentioned several times that sometimes rejection is your protection, but there are sometimes when, what do you do about the coach that, you know, here's the situation. One
Mm.
player can do this and get away with certain things, But when
Yeah.
your child does it, he comes down hard on them
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
criticizes your child harder than he does the things that he allows other players to do. What are your thoughts in regards to that level of criticism on a child?
Yeah, I definitely want to make sure that parents, as a coach, like last year, was blessed to coach a great group of guys at Mount Pisgah Christian. I want to make sure that parents get a look through the lens of a coach, right? Because skill development coaching and then coaching a team are so different. They're almost on different planets, but they're connected. And parents sometimes think that, well, the skill development coach told me X, Y, and Z, so this is what I should expect to see in the game. And my kid is being railroaded by his coach or her coach, and I'm seeing another kid get away with the same mistake and not be treated the same. Sometimes, and I'm not going to defend every coach because I don't know if this is the case, but sometimes if your player as a coach has a ton of potential and you know it, you like we had a kid last year named Jackson Williams, who's most likely going to be a Division I player in 2 years. Like he just has it. The body, the athleticism, the temperament, the confidence, the skill set. Like he's a Division I guard. I don't know what level, mid major or Power Five, but that all depends on everything that happens in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
When you know you got somebody like that, you know that because he's a diamond in the rough, you got to cut away at it. Like you got to, he has to get hit with the fire, the heat, the sandpaper. Like you just have to, you're knocking off all of the impurities. You're knocking off all of the excess material that's not going to allow him to shine when he is now in the light on those higher levels, right? Versus we had kids on the team that I remember one time we had a team meeting and I just kept it real with the players. I asked the head coach, Jay Sloan, great young man, great with X's and O's. I asked him, I said, can I just talk to the team for 5 minutes, coach? And I just gave him the statistics of like how many Division I schools there are, D2, D3. And then I explained to them how tough it is to make it. And so with all that, I then asked them, how many after hearing this still want to play college basketball? Before, our whole team thought they wanted to.
Mhm.
After we sat down and for 5 minutes, I broke down just what it is, what it actually is to play. We had at least like 5 to 6 of them that did not raise their hand. You can't expect me as an assistant or a head coach on whatever level. It could be little kids like middle school, it could be high school, even in college. Because if they're in college, they're trying to go pro.
Mhm.
But you can't expect a coach who knows that his player has no intention of going to the next level or trying to be the best. You can't expect me to come down on him the exact same way I come down on him. Now, my thirst for accountability is the same. If there's a standard, this is the standard. You meet the standard. You're on time, right? If as a team we're all going at a certain pace, we have to work at a certain level, then shoot. If you're not doing that, get out.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my player who has no intentions of playing in college, turning the ball over in a critical moment, I know that this high school experience for him is the epitome. It is the summit of his basketball experience for the rest of his life. He has no intention of ever playing again. So we swing it to him. The play was for him to make a one more pass.
Mhm.
He's nervous when he catches the ball anyway, because this is a big moment.
Yeah.
Shoot, we all on edge. Even those of us ain't playing. The ones that are coaching, we standing. He catch it and he got to get it to our best player, and he lose the ball. I'm not breaking the clipboard. I'm not, pulling him out the game and cussing him. The kid, even if he's the best at his position and he got to be on the floor, the kid is not. He's not built like that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, this young man who I said Jackson, who wants to go play at a Baylor, who wants to go play at a Duke or UNC or wherever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk to him a little differently about the situation, because even though you got 28-8 and My man loses the ball and turns it over. You got no business pulling your jersey out your shorts and throwing your hands in the air and carrying on like that. You the leader.
Yeah.
Your emotional response affects him.
Yeah.
Your temperament affects the team.
Yeah.
And college coaches are watching how you react in that situation. College coaches not watching him.
Yeah.
So, well, why are you talking to my son when my son didn't turn the ball over and this didn't happen? I'm making up
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
scenario.
Yeah. Yeah.
But ma'am, sir, parents that are watching this, if your child has a certain level of potential, then our level of accountability and demand is always going to be at that level.
Yeah.
So if you want Little Johnny to play pro, or you're talking about you want Little Johnny to get a free college scholarship, you better be ready for the demand.
Yeah.
And it's even higher today because of NIL, because of lack of job security, because of the transfer portal than it's ever been. I just believe there are some cases, and let me make sure I balance out what I've been saying. There
Yeah.
are some cases where coaches do, I don't want to say play favorites because every coach got favorites, but there are cases where coaches lack emotional stability and they also lack the strength to talk to some players because maybe there's a, a relationship there that is unspoken, but it's understood where, you know, we let these players off on a pass while we let some players feel the burn. There's some who they're just not doing it the right way. As a
Yeah.
parent, you got to be able to tell the difference. And you
Yeah.
got to also be able to keep your cool long enough to find out if that's what's happening, not to assume. Have a meeting with the coach if that coach will allow you to. Me, I'm not big on talking to parents in the middle of the season. That's just what it is. But you're going to be so aware of how I'm doing things because I'm a transparent person. You can just see it. Like if you watch me long enough, I'm putting my arm around your son and I'm explaining the game to him. I don't embarrass kids. I'm not the yelling type. I'm not gonna jump out on the court and lose my mind. That's just not me. And it's nothing against other coaches that do that. Like, you know,
Because you know me, I get at them, bro.
you know what I'm saying? Hey, you know, that's certain coaches. Me, I'm gonna be in your ear
Yeah.
with some explicit content, like what the you know what I'm saying? Like right here though. Just so that you know and I know that was wrong.
Yeah.
But I do understand it don't have to be this thing where you feeling like traumatized because Coach Korey just lost it on me in front of my peers and my classmates. Like, nah, I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But I think parents struggle with that. Parents are in a mode where, as you mentioned before, you're protecting and you're thinking that you're helping your child by avoiding confrontation when really they need to learn how to be in a situation where someone is coming at them and they have to still remain respectful. You know, yes, sir. No, ma'am. No, sir. Like, got you. Understood. How can I be better? Like, you know, and then just go sit down. Not a like back and forth, you know, where you have the last word. But I mean, I just think that's a situation by situation thing, T, with
Yeah.
when it comes to coaches that are, because it's a dirty game right now. Let's just be real. Some coaches are doing things for reasons beneath the surface. It has nothing to do with basketball.
Yeah.
One parent may be donating to the school,
Yeah.
you know, or like I mentioned before, the talent level of a player that coach may be afraid of losing that player.
Yeah. Maybe some
I know
faith.
trainers. Yeah, exactly. And so you as a parent, you're seeing this and you're seeing your child get railroaded. So you're thinking, you know, obviously this is unfair, but yet again, how are you preparing your child for life? Because the parents that are watching this happen to their children are the same parents that go to work and they have a boss that's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And what are you gonna do? You just gonna quit your job? You just gonna, you know, I'm out of here and break against the wall and cuss everybody out and you know what I'm saying, flick people off as you walk out of the office. Well, guess you're gonna be out on the street. You're not gonna pay your mortgage this month. You know, that car note is still gonna be due. like you still gonna have responsibilities.
Yeah.
So as an adult, what do? We go and find other employment, or we create a plan. All right, I'm finna do this until the next opportunity arises.
Yeah.
Or we get creative, and I'm not going to use the word manipulate in a negative way, but we do learn how to like increase our value in the eyes of maybe the person we're working for who is being a little unreasonable, and we work through that situation, and now the situation's changed.
Yeah.
Maybe this is an opportunity for your kid to figure out how to get better
Yeah.
because they're getting yelled at for a reason,
Yeah.
unless they're not, and then that's abuse. So then you need to protect your child and move them.
Yeah. But it's good to know, you know, and I know every coach is different. Like you just said, it's not, you don't talk to, don't like to talk to coach parents during the middle of the season. But we're talking about two things: AAU, school
Yeah.
ball. It is at the end of the day, it's good to know who you are entrusting your child to.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
going based off of the word of someone else, or have you done your research and your checks on this person? And hey, my child, once again, knowing your child, my child can fit into this system or be coached by this particular coach. Because once again, especially when it comes to AAU basketball, you put all that money up front, and then realize that you and your coach, the coach and your child is like oil and water. It's too late at
Mm-hmm.
this point. Now you're talking about going to get your money back and all this kind of stuff like that, and it's just a bad situation. So it boils down to knowing who you're entrusting your son or daughter to, because at the end of the day, constructive criticism is going to be a part of it. Now the key is it going to be constructive? You know what I'm saying? And those are the kind
Mm-hmm.
of things that you can kind of see once you do your research. Is that the kind of things that you see within this coach and coaching staff?
Right.
So, you know, we got to do as parents, we have to do a better job in regards to understanding and knowing the people that we are entrusting our kids to, and not just going with the pressure, like we said earlier, of someone saying, "Hey, look, you need to bring your son or daughter over to this organization, or you need to bring them over to this school." And once again, what are we chasing? What are we chasing? Because if we're chasing the next shiny thing, or we're chasing the NIL, and it has nothing to do with our roadmap, what I'm saying, you're not staying true to who you are. But when you don't have a roadmap, what I'm saying, I always say this: if you try to chase two rabbits, you'll lose both of them.
Mm-hmm.
You
That's
know what
right.
I'm
And on that same topic, too, especially with AAU, you got to understand the bigger the organization you go after, like you try to play for, these teams that are on the Adidas Gauntlet or Nike EYBL, or now you have the Puma circuit as well. You're going after teams that are basically funnels to like certain colleges,
Yeah,
right? And so a lot of these AAU coaches, they don't coach high school basketball or college basketball. These are like different type of individuals. And
yeah,
shout out to my AAU coaches out there who like do this for a living. Like this is their livelihood, a lot of them, but they also are in the relationship business because
yeah,
they're not tied to like an organizational structure like a school.
yeah,
So there are things going on behind the scenes that have nothing to do with just the performance on the court
yeah,
before the team is even constructed and put together.
yeah,
So if you're a parent who's just not entering this space, and again, you don't know the roadmap, as my brother T has said, and you don't know your child's personality type, and you try to throw them into just what you believe is the best situation, and now you're saying it's unfair, the coach is giving one kid more opportunities than my child. Again, you're not thinking critically or logically about what this situation actually is. These shoe company teams, they're already going to have one or two, sometimes even three guys,
yeah,
like dudes, like this is their team. They're getting all the shots. Coaches are here to see them. Everybody else, if you're smart, you understand that you're gonna get everything that kind of falls from the main players' plates. Like you're gonna get all the crumbs.
yeah,
So you're playing in front of Division 1 coaches too. So can you just catch and shoot?
yeah,
Can you be a rim runner if you're a big? If you're the point guard, can you just distribute, play tough defense, be the energy guy, be a glue guy.
Yeah.
If you're a versatile big, like, can you DHO and roll and pick and pop and make a big three here and there? Like, the other players that typically are the majority of the players, because there's only a few stars in the entire world.
Yeah.
Most of us are like auxiliary connections,
Yeah.
right? If the parents of those kids understand what it is, they always have a better experience.
Yeah.
It's when they think it's something else and they don't understand the politics of it, right? Just connect yourself to the train and let it pull you,
Yeah.
rather than expecting to replace or compete for something that it might have already been set in stone before you even brought your son or daughter over. So
Yeah.
I don't want to discourage parents from like going after those big organizations, but you got to understand what it is, and sometimes that will alleviate the drama
Yeah.
of rejection from coaches, or not getting the opportunity you want. But all in all, I think today, T, we talked a lot about adversity.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about just understanding persistence and resilience. I think that kids have to go through it. I think
Yeah.
it's just a part of it, and the more you go through it early, the better you'll be in the long term.
Yeah. Because we get a lot of people who have been shunned from it at an early age, and then when they
Hmm.
get older and the stakes are a lot higher, you know what I'm saying, things don't work out, according, and then they snap. You know what I'm saying? And then unfortunately, you can trace it back sometimes to, how things was handled in their, upbringing. But man, it's been an absolutely great morning. We are,
For sure.
this is a pre-recorded podcast. We're dropping it at our normal time on Sunday evening. So Cole, what you got to say for the folks before we get up out of here?
Man, make sure that whatever you're doing today, and for the rest of the week until we see you guys again, do it with intention, do it with purpose. Life is short. You guys may not know who this is out there, but we lost a legend out here in Atlanta this week, Rich Homie Quan. Great music artist, someone who helped a lot of people get through with good music for years. Lost his life this past week, overdose, and I think he was only 34. So we're about the same age, and it kind of sent shockwaves through the community here. Not because you got to like his music or you don't, but just because you see how finite things are and how we get caught up in things that don't really matter. So obviously we're discussing adversity today. We're talking about getting through tough times, but understand that everything that you do matters, and how you do the small things is how you're going to do everything. And so when you have the opportunity to spend time with your family today, even if it's just sitting down and watching a football game, be intentional about that. If you're a young kid and you're in school, or it's Sunday obviously, but you're getting ready for school tomorrow, be intentional about every class that you're in, the friend groups you have, anyone that you come in contact with. Understand that this it's not promised. So, gratitude should be at an all-time high, and intentionality should be at an all-time high, because you want to make the most of whatever opportunities you have so that you can be remembered the right way.
So there you have it, man. We mentioned Rich Homie, then we remember in our thoughts and prayers the students and the teachers who lost their lives in the school shooting over there in
Yes,
Georgia as
sir.
well.
Yes, sir.
So
Appalachia.
Appalachia, yeah. So we lot of different things going on in the world, but um, one thing that we can do on our own personal lives is to enjoy what we've been blessed with. And one thing that we've been blessed with is life and family. And so, I want to encourage all of us to enjoy that today. Take no day for granted. Um, and, any wrongs, need to kind of fix, saying go ahead and, be the bigger person and fix those. But outside of that, we can't wait to see you all next week. Next week we'll be back with the players, dropping our fears, frustrations, desires, dealing with the players. So make sure you go ahead and get them ready next Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The Champions Podcast, Sunday Night Conversation. I'm your host T. Drake, co-host here, Korey Harris, and we're gonna give you the rest of the night to go ahead and prepare for your week, an amazing week that you will have. Hey, look, remember, everyone wants to champion's power, but no one wants to champion's pain. But to get the power, you got to go through that pain. We
Go
just
through the
got to
pain,
talk
baby.
about it. got to go through it. Cole, man, appreciate you joining me tonight, man. We
Yes,
another nighter, but pre-recorded this for the people.
For sure.
Just want to make sure that we have a platform in place so that we're staying steady with this 8 p.m. Slot that we have. So appreciate you, man, and thank you for your adjustment. And I'll see you on the next side.
My brother.
All right, now.